Hey guys, Emma here, also known as 8vinyllow, bringing you all another video. Today's video is going to be a contest entry for Chris Propfe Musically Obsessed. Chris is hosting his 413 subs contest, so first off, awesome job, Chris. Congratulations on reaching 413 plus now, probably. That is awesome. But Chris's channel is awesome. He's a great guy, and I definitely wanted to jump on and support his channel. So here we go. We're just going to dive right in here. 3 questions that Chris has, and I really like these questions because they really get you thinking and talking more in depth about why you're choosing these records. So let's get going. First question is, show your 4 favorite albums and why. Now, if you watch my channel, I bet you have a pretty good guess as to what my 4 favorite albums are. However, for the sake of this contest, for Chris to change things up a little bit, to make it a little bit different, here's what I'm going to do. This is my deal to Chris. I am not going to show the albums that I show all of the time, so I'm not going to show them. So forget that. If you were expecting Cheap Trick and John Mayall, it's not happening. I'm going to show you 4 records that I don't show often. I just wanted an excuse to do that. But yeah, what I really wanted to do was show albums, show some of my favorite albums that I do not kind of mention and or show often. So first here is, of course, it's a classic, quintessential album of the 60s and just for any record collection in general. This is Cream Disraeli Gears, and I love this album. It's probably my favorite Cream album, as it's probably a lot of yours out there in the vinyl sphere, vinylverse, vinyl community. You know, I love my British blues. I love Clapton. What a lineup. Jack Bruce, Eric Clapton, Ginger Baker. It doesn't get better than that in terms of music and as well as the British blues scene in general. And what I love about this album is, yes, so you know I love my British blues. I love that whole blues explosion, blues scene. And you see that blues roots rock sound in their album Fresh Cream. But why I love this album is because it's incorporating that blues roots, blues sound, but really starting to experiment with the psych sounds of the 60s. And I think that's what makes this album awesome and extremely, extremely unique. What a great album. Of course, Sunshine of Your Love is on here, Strange Brew. Incredible album. This is one that every single person who owns a record collection needs in that collection, hands down. All right, number 2, we have Revolver the Beatles. This is probably my favorite Beatles album. I have a really hard time with ranking albums just in general, Cheap Trick, any band. And of course the Beatles, they're hard to rank too. It's probably my favorite. I always go back to this one. So if that doesn't tell me what my favorite is, I don't know what else will or does. But this is probably my favorite Beatles album. What an eclectic album, kind of ignites different moods while you're listening to it. It's awesome. Rubber Soul is up there, White Album's up there, Abbey Road is up there, but this one I just go back to every time. So, one of my favorite Beatles albums and one of my favorite albums of all time. Next we have my favorite Elvis Costello. This is Armed Forces. This was an album when I probably had 10 albums in my record collection in its entirety, and this is one that I spun over and over and over and over and over and over and over. I've heard this album so many times, but I still love it to this day. I just played it a couple weeks ago. I love this thing. Like I said, my favorite Elvis Costello record. I'm obsessed with the song Green Shirt on here, which definitely isn't the best song off of here, best Elvis Costello song in general, but it's always been a song that I just love listening to, and just, you know, when that song goes on, just stopping everything and really taking it in. It's just interesting. It's an interesting song. But you also have Accidents Will Happen, of course, Oliver's Army, which is a great Elvis Costello song. What's so funny about Peace, Love, and Understanding? You get some Nick Lowe in there. Moods for Moderns. I mean, this is like a greatest hits for Elvis Costello, and it's just a studio album. Great stuff. Last but not least, I've mentioned this before. This is one of my favorite albums of all time, 100%. This is Jeff Beck's debut. This is Truth. Talk about all-star lineup with Cream. Oh my goodness. You have Jeff Beck. You have appearances on this album by people like Ronnie Wood and Rod Stewart and oh my goodness, I'm blanking out right now. I'm absolutely John Paul Jones, Keith Moon, Jimmy Page. I completely blanked. But yeah, talk about all-star lineup. This is awesome. A lot of people call this album the first heavy metal album, and I don't know if I would personally say that, but there's definitely elements of hard rock in there, hard blues rock, and in my opinion, way ahead of its time when this thing came out. Great album. I cannot recommend this more. All right, question number 2. Show an album that you bought on a whim, and I am so happy I did. Let me tell you that. This is the Record Store Private Press edition of the Groundhogs' Thank Christ for the Bomb, which also, Thank Christ for the Bomb, is probably up there in my top 20 favorite albums of all time. And I didn't know really much about the Groundhogs. I was into British blues and that whole British blues scene. Didn't really know about the Groundhogs. I had heard of them, but the owner of the record store that I frequent a lot kind of pointed this out to me. And first off, being a history nerd, history buff that I am, just the kind of illustration here in the front and then description where it talks about a visionary tale of Cold War feel, alienation, and everyday drama. That drew me in right away. That's the history buff in me. But then hearing that it's a British blues band, this album, not really bluesy, more kind of prog rock. Their earlier stuff is bluesy, but it has the elements of blues rock in this. But just hearing that they're a British blues band, hearing, the owner was raving about Tony McPhee's guitar work. So it sold me, got this, bought this on a whim, and seriously influenced my music taste 100%. Great stuff. All right, the last question, number 3, show 3 albums that are essential to 3 different genres. I'm gonna go through these fast. For blues, enough said. For funk and soul, bunch of white guys that got funk and soul right. Scottish white men, Average White Band, great album. 1974, also coined as the White Album. And garage rock, hailing from Chicago, Illinois, great band. This is the Shadows of Night. They're like, if the Buckinghams and Saturday's Children were the Beatles of the Chicago music scene of the 60s, Shadows of Night were the Rolling Stones. They were the bad boys, whatever. So they got big off of Gloria, of course, covering the Van Morrison penned song from them. But great album overall. Essential to any garage rock collector out there, if that's your thing. All right, that's it. Those are the 3 questions. Chris, again, congratulations on reaching 413 plus. That is awesome. That's all I have for this video, guys. I will see you all for my next. Bye, guys.